Hey, it's John and Mike, brew-foods.com. We're a couple of home brewers, and we post these kinds of videos every single week. So if you'd like to subscribe to our channel, please do that. We'd love to have you come along the ride of our journey. For this video, we're drinking a seasonal beer for us here in the Northern Hemisphere. It's summer, and we're dealing with one of the hottest Junes on record.
It's been brutal.
So, you know, I brewed a wheat beer. I'm calling this the Wide Open Wheat, and I can talk about the recipe and the instructions I followed to brew this beer as Mike tastes and gives me his thought. There's also a sneaky surprise that we'll talk about after all is said and done about the ingredients and the instructions. So, the grain bill is 50-50. German Pilsner. I was looking for Belgian Pilsner, but I found German Pilsner. The other 50% is flaked wheat. And if you've followed our channel, we talked about how flaked wheat was a pretty darn good flaked adjunct grain for these types of beers. So I actually followed a recipe that I brewed last year, same grain bill, 50-50, Pilsner to flaked wheat. Mash that for an hour at 150 degrees Fahrenheit, 66 degrees Celsius, 60-minute boil. I actually had hops that I added for all 60 minutes of that. Was looking for something in the noble variety, so I added 1 ounce of Hallertauer right at 60 minutes to go in the boil. Okay. At the end of that boil, I dosed it with 2 ounces of Lupo Max Sabro hops at 19%.
That's what I'm tasting.
Alpha acids. Yeah, I thought you'd be like,
Sabro.
What is this? So the original gravity was 1054, finished at 1012 for a 5.5% alcohol. The big surprise is the yeast strain that we used for this beer.
Oh, yes.
This was harvested from last year's experiment. I wanted to know if I could harvest the yeast in Hoegaarden bottles, so I bought a 6-pack back in the depths of the pandemic, and used the dregs of those bottles to get a nice yeast starter going, and brewed a pretty nice Hoegaarden clone from that yeast strain. And proving, at least to me, that the yeast strain that is in the bottles is not some kind of finishing yeast strain. It's the actual Belgian White Ale yeast strain that they use, and it was, you know, a spot-on clone. But at the end of that brewing session, when I packaged it, put that into a keg, I did harvest. I had a mason jar that was sanitized, and I just scooped some out, and I said, like, all right, put this in the back of the fridge. We'll use this later. And then, you know, I roused that yeast, making a couple liter starter, and used that yeast into this beer. So I'm not sure if you can taste any Hoegaarden-like qualities to this, but certainly, like, I think the big thing was to be, like we've been talking about, when we've had these really kind of special flavor hops, that wouldn't it be great to just have like a wheat beer and like a big dose of, say, Sabro hops? And I'm like, well, that I had other plans. I had like, I'm going to use fresh orange zest and all this for next year's. I was just like,
I don't know.
Forget that. Let's just use Sabro hops and see how that tastes. So with that, I'll let Mike talk about this beer.
Well, first of all, appearance-wise, right? I mean, it's a white ale. I mean, it's got a beautiful amount of just white ale haze to it, so that's working for it. The combination of the flaked wheat and obviously the yeast, so that yeast is, you know, hasn't changed its character to stay sort of flocculate, you know, in suspension here. The first few aromas, when I first smelled it, I sort of felt like I was getting like an orange type of citrus, more like a clementine, like a very ripe clementine, maybe almost like fruity pebbles type of, but then I realized that fruit quality in the wheat is what was tricking my brain into like some sort of like big brand box, like fruity, like Fruit Loops, those types of cereals, right?
Sure.
I was sort of but specifically an orange thing. And tasting it, I was like, So it's even at 10-12, it's actually drinking drier than that, which is pretty nice. So the mouthfeel is light. It's relatively dry as far as the malt character goes. But then the flavor of those hops is definitely, once you said Sabro, I didn't originally think that the flavor was as orangey as the aroma was, and I think it's because that Sabro, for me, that Sabro is like a limey.
Yeah.
I know the descriptors sort of described as like a strange like coconut thing to it, a little coconut oil maybe to it. But to me, I really get like a limey, tropical thing, maybe suntan lotion type of thing, but in a very pleasant way. It's not overpowering.
Yeah.
Then coupling that with the softness of the wheat, yeah, it's super pleasant. It works really well. It's by no stretch of the imagination, because of that Sabro hop, does it taste like a Belgian wit? But I do actually get a little bit of it. There's like, for me, Hoegaarden has a certain there's a certain softness that comes from the Hoegaarden yeast. Those Hoegaarden beers, it's a little bit different than, say, an Allagash White, or whatever your other favorite wit beers would be that you can get out there. And I think I sort of pick out a little bit of that Hoegaarden yeast quality to it, which is really nice. It's working. It's awesome to see that yeast coupled with Sabro, especially Lupo Sabro at that.
Yeah, yeah. And just 2 ounce, 2 ounce pack, and just no dry hopping, because I just didn't want to even think about it.
Yeah.
Threw it all at flame out, and then just chilled, and said, I think this is going to be enough to impact the flavor for sure.
I think Sabro is one of those hops that you either you dig it, you want this strange lime coconut flavor in there, or you don't, or you just, it's hard. It's hard to imagine pairing it with certain things because it is a little bit, it's uniquely predominant of what it is. So you try to layer in there some Galaxy or some Motueka or something, you're still going to have this. It might even seem more strange than here. It's showcased, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, this is what it tastes like. But if you were trying to work through, let's say, some Citra Mosaic and Sabro, you'd be like, what is that thing in the background? Why is there, I would think. But in this, it works. It's very pleasant, super easy to drink. Yeah. Love the haze. It looks like a wit beer to me. So
my question to you is, as the summer rolls along, and we'll be probably getting together and so on and so forth, how many of these would you have in a session?
Oh, until you told me I had to drink something else to help with the supply,
Right on.
So yeah, no, I would definitely have 2 or 3 of these on your deck in the shade, just like we've said before. I would definitely drink several of these at your house. This would be great.
Well, I think that was one note that we talked about when we did the any IPA comparisons, and just the thought of drinkability. And I really wanted to have that for this type of beer, because I think that, and we've talked about it before, like brew for the season, have easy drinking beers for the summertime. They go down real easy. It's not that we haven't on this channel had an Imperial Stout, in the middle of July, but that's just because that's who we are.
Yeah, got a month ago.
Hey, we'll see you next month. In any case, I think that in our off-camera lives, we definitely brew for the season and have beers that go along with the weather. So, easy grain bill, easy to showcase one hop. So if you have a favorite hop, I think that having this kind of wheat plus Pilsner plus one big heavy dose of late edition hops is a winning combination. So give it a try. If you're dealing with heat this summer, I think this would be a good way to relieve yourself during those hot spells and heat waves. Okay. Thanks a lot. Again, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. For John and Mike, brew-dudes.com, brew on.
Cheers.